Greetings and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again. This is Ezra Chisa Show. There's been a lot of talk about Matebeleland Collective. A lot of people, they've got no information at all about the organization or about the group. They normally distort information. So what we thought today, we thought to get it from the horse's mouth. I'm trying to organize the whole crew from Matebeleland Collective. I think we'll get the deputy chairperson, we'll get someone else, and also the secretary, Umama Jennifer Williams, known as Jenny Williams. She's a very popular lady. She's been a fighter, human rights defender. Let me see with a crossover to Bulawayo and try and get to Jenny. Yes, she is. Greetings, Jenny. Welcome. How are you today?
Yes, good evening to everybody who's watching us. I think I'm surviving. It's been very hot in Bulawayo today, very hot.
Oh, that's good. It's better when the cold is gone. Hopefully, the corona as well will disappear. Yeah.
We hope so. But
Okay.
loku kansa.
No, kuzaba right. Maybe before I know that you've got your colleagues who should be joining us here, Usiwa and somebody else. Ngoba who's supposed to be joining us here, but they are coming, but I think on my phone now they're coming. What is fixing her phone? We're trying to cross over to Lupane as well. Lupane.
We should have Hildegard joining us, Manyati, and we should have Alfred Sikwa, who is our natural resource governance guy.
Okay, right. Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, people, maybe just introduce yourself in brief. Who is Jenny? Jenny Williams. You are known.
Jenny Williams is a human rights defender. I am in my 8 to 5 job. I am the national coordinator and director of WOZA, Women of Zimbabwe Arise, which I also founded in 2002. And then we have become part of Matebeleland Collective.
Arise. She should be here. I don't know what happened. Yeah, okay, you'll go on, yeah. Women of Zimbabwe Arise, yeah.
That's right. I'm the director and national coordinator. It's a social movement. WOZA is best known for its right to protest, exercising the right to protest, and defending rights, demanding social justice. We have become part of Matebeleland Collective because we felt that all our years of protest and placard engagement should be able to have an additional value addition point, and we should be able to try and be part of an engagement with government so that we see whether the placards and all the toying will bring any results. And so we became part of Matebeleland Collective, looking at it as our interaction with a network of other NGOs, churches, as a way to build a constructive approach towards dealing with Zimbabwe, especially development, and especially to try and deal with how women, our membership throughout urban and rural areas, can find that social justice can be held in their hands, finally, after all this toying.
Okay. You came back to explain people need to know more. What is Matebeleland Collective? What is
Matebeleland Collective is a grouping of civic society and churches coming from Matabeleland North, Matabeleland South, and Bulawayo. We came together, we started to be working at the beginning of 2017 around the biometric voter exercise program. We started to come together, to work together, to try and get people to come out and register to vote. And we found that we were managing to find synergies amongst organizations that in the past had worked in their little silos. And so for most of 2017, we were building up a partnership, working together. Eventually, we went to the City Hall car park. We also consulted people who were non-members, passers-by in the car park. We asked them to also start to imagine a new Zimbabwe. a new Matabeleland, and they also gave us their views. With all of that, we then came together on the 2nd of December 2017, where we actually held a People's Convention. At that convention, we wanted to be able to crystallize exactly what was it, a new approach by us as people of Matabeleland. How do we capture what is the new Matabeleland we want? How do we synthesize it? And we came with some very key points. Obviously, always topping the charts, unfortunately, is Kukrahundi. And from the approach that we had developed, looking at a new methodology called equalization, people said, when we start to engage about Kukrahundi, we should also look at those 15 years that we lost during after independence. And we should identify the way that government should bring us and give us those 15 years back. Many of the lives, many of the people who died in that genocide will not get their lives back. Many of the people who lost loved ones will not get those loved ones back. But now, after all these years, 40 years, we should at least find a way to equalize the communities who were affected. And so in this new methodology, this new framework, this new approach, people said, Hamba nini leo tshela umongameli. That was the specific mandate we were given to say, okay, now we've got the project pretty much clear. Go and look for that head of state and ask him why he sent people to kill us in Matabeleland, and tell him that there's now a need for him to look at equalization, for him to unlock development. The modern day Kukrahundi is also lethal on us. It creates poverty at extreme levels. And they said, go and tell him. Before we did that, as Matebeleland Collective, we decided to synthesize all the different views into a strategic retreat, and we developed what is called the Matebeleland Collective Compendium. And it's very important to read that document because it really sets out the positions of the people of Matabeleland into that document, from the convention, from the strategic retreat, from all the consultations each individual organization did. We brought it all together into that document.
Right.
And so we started to look for umongameli. 2 years later, Sake Samtola.
Okay. So in other words, he didn't approach you, umongameli. You approached him. So I want to make
yes, with the mandate we got, we were told go and look for him.
I do understand that. I wanted to clear that so that it doesn't appear as if it came from the other side. So it came actually from the people of Matebeleland who belong to Matebeleland Collective, that you approach him and demand answers.
Exactly.
Do you agree? I know that you've been misrepresented, misquoted. Was the atrocities in the early 80s after independence genocide or a civil war?
In our document, the Matebeleland Compendium, we clearly call it a genocide. And in the strategic retreat, we debated this at length, and we said there is no other word for it. There was no civil war. There was genocide. However, recently, when people start to talk of genocide and they misquote me, they have missed a very key point, Baba Spanda, that I want us to get. In the statement issued by Minister of Information, Honorable Monica Mtswangwa, she used a phrase, Rwanda style. And when we analyze Rwanda style, and if those people like me were watching ZBC that night, they saw some clips from Rwanda on ZBC TV. And there was this threat that, does our Grace Robert Ndlovu, Archbishop Robert Ndlovu, want to bring a Rwanda-style genocide? Well, for us as Matebeleland Collective, we have debated this. There was no Rwanda-style genocide in Zimbabwe. However, there was a Zim-style genocide perpetrated by the government, deployed 5th Brigade, the commander-in-chief of Zimbabwe's army in 1983. In 1982, they started training those soldiers. In 83, they deployed them. That was a Zimbabwe-style genocide. Let us not start to cause tribalism, because for us, this is very crucial. If you want to say what happened in Zimbabwe was Rwanda-style genocide, then you are blaming every single person who the minister called the Shona majority. You are saying that the Shona majority just went around, but dingama machete, but dingama all sorts of weapons and came and just killed. No, that is not what happened. What happened was soldiers went to the armory, they were given weapons, they were given bullets, they were deployed eMandebeleni kubulala abantu bankhona. That is genocide, my brother.
That is genocide. I think you have made it clear, because that's my argument. What people didn't understand, the Rwandese genocide was Hutus versus Tutsis, a tribe versus tribe. In this scenario, it was a government which sent the 5th Brigade, which unleashed terror and killed thousands of our people. Meanwhile, let's welcome Mr. Alfred. Alfred Baba. Alfred, how are you, Njani?
Ngiyaphila Sibanda unjani?
Yeah, Alfred, ungazitsho ukuthi yini so that I was yini ku Matebeleland Collective?
Hayi ngimember ekhangele i-natural resource governance.
Okay, natural resource governance. Okay, umama also explain lapha, because we want this to be clear so that abantu babe clear today. There's a lot of confusion going around here. We know that there's too much fake media around. This is why myself, I try every time to balance up things to show abantu bazizwele the real truth. I'm happy today. Jenny is here, is actually narrating what is all about, and he has cleared so genocide, it is a genocide, and the differences. The key word was styled. What about not genocide? So as usual, the fake media started misquoting it. In this
But Baba Sibanda, I think it's also very important to make sure that you have a distinction, that the difference between Rwanda and Zimbabwe also is in why people told us on the 2nd of December that we should look for Omongameli. Because when we say that the Zim-style genocide was because the commander-in-chief deployed his soldiers to Matabeleland, it means we must now engage the head of state, the office of the head of state. Please let us not run away from this. No matter who is in that position, they must be engaged, because they inherit the good and the bad of the past. And when we engage the head of state, we'll be saying, your predecessor or you or whoever it was then deployed these people. Please, we require, as the people of Matabeleland, that there be acknowledgement that this occurred. Because, up to now, people have felt they couldn't mention this word Gukrondi because it was criminalized. And now, even if it was criminalized, there was no one who acknowledged that this happened. Abantu bafa, some are unburied today. So the acknowledgement, ilandela, because it's Zim style, and the acknowledgement lie in that because of who deployed.
Yeah. Coming to Hildegard. Hildegard, you are the vice chair of Matebeleland Collective. We are live from Lupane. And when I watch the organization do you run, Mama? Which organization before Matebeleland Collective?
Good evening. I run Lupane Women's Development Trust.
Right. Alfred, to tell an IP organization, you belong to which organization?
Sibanye Animal Welfare and Conservation Trust.
Okay, so they all call themselves Matebeleland Collective, and they've taken an initiative to engage the government of Zimbabwe to try to address the Kukuraonde. We've seen people they demonstrating, protesting. Sabulawa have been killed, but the people, no one has ever come out with an idea on the way forward. And these people, they've stood up to say, we have to take a lead. We can't always be mourning. Some people have died, suffering. We've got an old gogo there in Lupane, in Cholocho, who can't get medication, who can't get closure. He's still asking. What is disturbing me is find my fellow journalists going to ask those people. Those people keep on narrating their stories, but they don't even know. You don't give them anything. You go interview, you go sell your story somewhere, you go there, but where are we going? We can't mourn forever. This is 40 years down the line. So the people, absolute twilight of their lives, now they need this sorted like yesterday. So we need people to sort it now because we can't keep on crying. If this generation of this leadership, which is there now, if it goes or if they all die, nobody will be answerable to this because the new people will come in 10 years' time or so, they'll tell you that we know nothing about this. So I don't see anything wrong with what the new people are doing. Isn't Dunas Onazikona, the chiefs with you? What is happening?
Isn't Dunas ngaphakathi kwethu? We have been engaging them. Nxa sihlangana lo mongameli, we then asked to brief them. Bakhona, I think the last meeting we had a bit of a challenge because nxa sihlangana lo umongameli, we are also supposed to have the chiefs come, but the chiefs are called through their structures, through the Ministry of Local Government. So last time, I think the Ministry of Local Government didn't call them in time, but we are looking forward in the next few weeks to have a big session where there will be civic society, churches, and our traditional leaders, where we can now put our heads together and speak together to the president.
Okay, that is Sulaw Furun Gezelela Konapo, Lobo Alfred. Do you want to add something there?
Yeah, I mean, indaba ukuthi sesinanzelela ukuthi eMatebeleland we have a challenge to a natural resource governance ukuthi ungakhangela babasibanda. I always say it ukuthi we have the biggest park elizweni and ipark yethu iyastretcha isithathele umhlaba ukuthi siyipark yenyamazana kodwa people who stay around those parks are not seeing much of benefits. Siqalisa nje ukuqhatshweni employment. They are not being employed at parks forest. Kubuya abanye abantu bezoqhatshwa, and we feel ukuthi it's still extension of what happened ngesikhathi seGugurawundi because as long as some opportunities are local communities, they are being disadvantaged, and it's still an extension. So we need to engage the government and kube sibili deliberate effort yokuqhatsha abantu abahlala around ama-parks, abahlala around ama-forests, ama-mines like Owange, gas mines and everything. Not only ukuqhatsha, but even having them on part of those mines like ama-gas mines. Babe nama-shares kubo-colliery. Babe at least e-parks kube le-land that is reserved. We know ukuthi kule tourism that is involved. The people are given areas to build chalets. And you find out most of those people who are given those areas are not from local locals. So which is still a deliberate effort attempt to disadvantage locals. So I believe that unless and until we engage this government, bakuzwisisa ukuthi no, abantu to besides ukuthi saphutshelwa ngabantu abaningi ngesikhathi seGugurawundi, and you find that maybe most of our age group yethu yaba le disadvantage education, and bazabe becatsha ngokuthi na asifundanga, which is not true, but it is about who is on the interview and who's interviewing. This structure ngokwaso vele is already a disadvantage to us. So that's why we keep on engaging in natural resource. At least locals should benefit. Khathesi abantu bephinga bayamuvwa ne-issue yokuthi kuyavulwa imayini or something, but who is going to be employed there? Those are the things that we are looking at. Abephinga, are they having a share because they lose the land in that mine? It was one thing how to disadvantage umuntu usumnika ipoverty usumuve esiyali. Kumele unanzele ukuthi ngesikhathi umuva umuntu is getting poorer and poorer. Already we are poor because our resources are not benefiting us. So basically, I think the issue of natural resource ihambelana le devolution. It should be strictly enshrined in the constitution and our devolution would benefits come to the communities, and that's where we work with the chiefs. ama-chiefs izinduna kumele zibe make sure ukuthi i-allocation ye-land eyani it's locals first hayi konke kuqale abantu baphandle.
Okay, yeah. So right, so it's part of this discussion when you're meeting the government.
Yes, definitely. Mina, that's what I talk about. Angikhuluma kunengi nxa silapho esihlangana khona i-issue enzama ukuyilandelelana nale natural resource governance and community beneficiation.
Okay, wena ngapho ke Hildegard?
You would notice ukuthi during isikhathi seguguraundi, a lot of people died, and most of those people who died have never been documented, they've never been recorded. Uma issues of death, it means that there were no death certificates that were given to those people. And as a result, we have got generations that do not have birth certificates, generations that do not have identity cards. So what are we looking at? Tina, we want to engage government to have a deliberate effort to ensure that people from Matabeleland who are disadvantaged because they do not have documents are given those documents, that there is relaxation of AMA regulations so that our people get their documents. We are looking at people who did not get their pensions because when they died, their deaths were not recorded. Their offspring have always been disadvantaged because they couldn't get those death certificates. We have people who are deemed missing, and they've been missing now for years, for decades. And we need to bring all those issues to closure. If we can get government to, like they have said, we will soon be launching the Ishiyama document. For us, this is the importance of engagement. That whilst we are talking about healing and kukuraundi, we also need to look at the practical things that the people need to move on. Documents are essential. People need to know who they are and have it on record. People whose birth certificates have been written wrongly, people whose identity cards have got wrong surnames, all those people need to come on board, and we have that addressed by the current government. So issue documentation is one that is very, very dear to our heart as MC, to say, can government now relax regulations and ensure that our people get documents?
Okay, Jenny, I know I think you were young, just like me during Kukuraundi. You were in Gwanda. Gwanda, how was it that side? Gwanda for the
Mina bengihlele Bulawayo because we used to spend most of our school holidays ekhaya, but after when the Liberation War happened, sasesithonele a town because it was tough to be emakhaya. But I think here we lived very close. We knew in Tombani when it started. We knew of the people who were being loaded in the rail tracks and disappeared. And Vele, we also quickly heard one morning that ama kukundi bafika babopukoko lomalume lomzawami bathi kulama arms caches ekhaya yethu. I think they were there for at least over a week. At that time, she was supposed to be carrying armed caches. She was 92 years old. In those days, arms caches. I can't imagine what Lama AK-47 because they never ever found these arms caches anyway. So these are some of the issues. We have other relatives we know who disappeared. Because I'm of mixed race, I have many of these stories. And everybody has a Kukuraundi story. That is important to understand. And everybody has a problem with their documents. That's why Hildegard is laying it out so well. And there are many, many people who are unburied today. How do we put our relatives to rest? How do we spell out a cause of death, Hildegard? I think that one is a very crucial thing. You know, many people, balama death certificates is balwe crossfire. What does that mean? Why are we not getting the truth? So I think in our engagement with the government and the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Registrar General, we have said we want truth-telling in those documents. The cause of death must be factual. The cause of the disappearances of our relatives must be explained. So the work that we are also doing is to ensure that they can write the correct cause of death. We are also inputting into the exhumations policy that is being written by government. Then also the issue of analyzing the Missing Persons Act to make sure it's up to date and it deals with Kukraundi. Those are some of the nitty-gritty things that we are dealing with on the ground.
Do they acknowledge that they sent the army to kill people? Have they agreed to it, that they own up, say, yes, we did it? Or
we haven't heard that yet. That for us is a very important, major step. Yes, we will get the birth certificates. Yes, we will do these other things. Yes, we will talk about the Zambezi Water Project. But the most important thing is the head of state must one day soon issue a statement to say, we acknowledge that the 5th Brigade was deployed in some parts of Midlands and Matabeleland and perpetrated judicial killings because there was no trials, there was no people arrested. Babe torture, and they will just beat people, lama droppers, and they will rape, and they will just murder. And that was it. There was no civil war. We can't talk of a civil war. So when we want the head of state to acknowledge, he needs to be able to acknowledge that there was that. The apology is a separate thing. I think that one we must lay out in a separate question. You must come with that one in a few minutes.
So do you think we ever win that they own up and say, yes, we did it? Do you believe it will happen? That they own up to say, we really killed you? Because at the moment, like you're saying, you're trying to find, do you believe in your engagement when you talk to him, do you think it's someone who's going to say, yes, I own up, we did this?
I'll give that one to my vice chair to answer.
Vice Chair.
It's very difficult to come up with an answer to say yes or no. But the president, in our engagement, has acknowledged that Kukuraundi is a very emotive topic. And that whatever we are engaging in is going to be a process. And obviously, when you take the first step toward the process, you are engaging in the hope that this process will be taken through. So he has said it's very, very emotive. People need to engage with care so that we do not continue to bring pain and hurt to the people that have already been hurt. So we need to engage and tread on that ground with care. So if he is able to say that, it means that he acknowledges that this was a very difficult period, which has left a lot of pain and scars and even wounds in the lives of those that are still here. What we are working towards is to get to the final stage where there can be a real acknowledgement of who was responsible for Kukuraundi. For us as MC, Kukuraundi was never a tribal war. Kukuraundi was the government itself sending its soldiers to come and kill the citizenry of Matebeleland. Because we never saw the people of Mashonaland as a community coming to kill the people of Matebeleland. But rather we saw an army, a specific army under the 5th Brigade. So we would want that to be acknowledged so that even the bad feelings that exist between the tribes can be dealt with. Because really, we have a tribe of the Shona people who will have to bear the brunt of a government decision, which they never, as a community, took part in. But the government decided to do that. So for us, it is engaging government to acknowledge, not just so that the people of Matabeleland can also be healed, but so that they can also be very good intertribal relations. Because already they have smeared the people of Mashonaland to say that the people of Mashonaland came to kill the people of Matabeleland. And yet that is not true. It was the government.
It was the government indeed. Why do you think they're taking so long to apologize or to acknowledge? What's the delay? To admit that we did it and maybe to apologize and own up. Don't you think that would be a better way to start it? Because it looks like it would never be sorted.
Yeah, I think, Hildegard, thank you for that wonderful answer. I think it's really important. But I think it's important to understand what she has said. She said this is a process. It's a process of heating and unburdening. Now, I've been attacked so badly this entire week. People have fabricated all sorts of lies about me. But, I can't feel upset because I know the pain of Gukrondi. I've lived all my life in Matabeleland. I know how people are traumatized, not only by the Gukrondi, but by what has even happened after that. We still have Gukrondi in a different way. That pain is so present. It's so here today that people vent out and butt out. So I understand that pain. And so I will never hate anybody because of that. And so as we go through that process, we must allow people the time to vent, the time to air out, the time to speak. And then, when people feel that they've done some of those processes, who knows what will happen next? And that is why, if you look at the implementation matrix that came from government, which they presented on the 9th of April, 2019, it says the first things is birth certificates, death certificates. Then it also talks of open discussions on Gukrondi. To me, that has been overly achieved. This week, people have on every single WhatsApp group that you can imagine, maybe on Twitter, maybe on Facebook, everybody has said what they've wanted to say of Gukrondi. They've laughed, they've cried, they've insulted, they've smeared. Has anybody been arrested for Gukrondi? Not one. Which means we have taken a major step this week as a nation in saying that we can talk about Gukrondi. We have decriminalized talking of Gukrondi. And ngifuna ukubona ipolice lizabopha umuntu one uzabe violated implementation matrix. Maybe that is important and it's a step towards healing. It's a process. Let's allow the process to be working and unrolling. Let's also build trust. The thing about dialogue that we are doing with His Excellency primarily and some of his cabinet ministers who are there is we are also building trust. It's not an easy thing. And that trust was severely affected when we read what Minister Mutswangwa did. Because we said, if a cabinet minister can say this about us, so this last week, major trust. We were very hurt by what they did. And we then had to call him and indicate to him that, look, we don't understand what's going on. Please, can you engage us? Which is why we had this meeting on Saturday, why it was one of the few engagements that is off the record, because we wanted to be able to just tell him how upset we were by what happened. And we wanted him to listen, and we wanted to also listen to him. This is the trust building that we have been going through with His Excellency. And as we build that trust and we get better and better, and other groups also must come in and join us and be part of us, so that they also will be able to help guide, tell us how to do things, also participate themselves, say things themselves in these closed meetings. Then the trust can be spreading wider and wider. And maybe we will find a solution as Zimbabweans. Maybe.
Okay. So, which is good, because why I applaud you is that we take an initiative. I'm fed up of people, Jenny, who like to be mourning on social media. People can't tell us what is the way forward. We need to address the Kukura issue right now. Not to wait. I think, Alfred, can you turn down your volume, please? Because it's a feedback. And then we need to that addressed right now, because this thing of people just mourning around, they're not telling us. They tell us that you are not the right person, this was not the right person. I bet you, even if they've asked somebody else, Umtulis or they say Ungwenya, lead this, they're going to say the same thing, Ungwenya lo tengiwe udlimas. So you ask yourself, who should be the one doing it? Because if someone take an initiative, you complain. Ungabale patenje asithengwe izano kube lalokho. So abantu bakithi maybe usisuza khuluma Hildegard uthi you told me earlier on ukuthi abantu bakithi they are very angry. Because one thing, they are angry but not knowing where they're going. Because they always attack everything. Ungabuza uthi till when? Because at the moment, you're looking at the United Nations, that Kukura is not registered as genocide. So therefore, there's no one going to be taken to International Court, Criminal Court of Justice or anywhere. So this thing, if this government goes, it's going to die with it. So if you try to assist the few people right now, how do we do it? Because there are people who are always making noise on social media. But you ask him what should be done. He can't tell you what should be done. Otherwise, he's morning to say this is ZANU, this is ZANU. Because we are MTC. We are activists. Me, I lost my uncle. And I want this addressed because I don't want to be hearing about Kukura area. I need to move on. You need to address this once and for all.
That's true. I was just explaining to you that at times we need to look at healing in its proper perspective. The characteristic of a community that has had a painful past entails that this community gets healing, which is why we really need to push for community healing. Individuals can take steps to heal themselves, but as long as the community is not healed, this is where we have these challenges, where people are consistently complaining, but they do not go out to seek solutions. And as MC, we realize that there has to be steps that are taken, so that if we have those steps taken and the people can now get healing, then maybe the people can start saying, what do we get for reparation? Because there has to be reparation. There has to be compensation. The people need to move on, but they have lost a great number of years, and there has to be reparation. But the pain that they are bearing is being shown in the fact that there is so much internal fighting, even amongst ourselves.
Absolutely.
All because of that pain. So we need really to ensure healing.
Okay.
So how on to that? There is extreme fear amongst the people that even on simple notes where they are supposed to discuss development at local community level, they really can't, because the fear is embedded in them. It was instilled during the Kukurahundi era, and it is continuously being perpetrated upon the communities through various means. So it is the time now that we address such inequalities and such issues that communities need to move on, they need to heal, they need to look at development in a developmental perspective, rather than looking at who is coming to develop us and where is that person coming from. As long as communities can work together, understand each other without fear of who is here, like in any meetings that people are not even free to air themselves because of the Kukurahundi that took place 2 decades ago.
Right. I do understand this process. It's going to be long and painful. Like I said earlier on, most of the victims are in their twilight. I said I'm 84 years, I'm 90, I'm 60 something. And then these people, Gogo, like the one Gogo over Limlins and Alecholocho, Washali bullet still locked in there. Nobody's helping it, but people are good. Whoever interview, I go around so this thing needs to be sorted now. So what are they gonna do now since it's still a process? What are you gonna do to save these people who are there now? Try to telemedication, counseling, whilst you are dealing with this, solving this only once and for all.
Yes, absolutely. I think the implementation matrix also talks of the provision of other practical things, including counseling and medical attention, because there are many, many people who need, and some are dying every day from the wounds that they're still carrying from Gukrondi. That is very clear. So those are some of the things that government needs to do, because they are the ones who sent the soldiers. So some of those things I think will follow once we start to do our action plans on the ground. But I think, Baba Spanda, it's very important for people who are listening to understand that for Matebeleland Collective, we don't feel it's right for us to prescribe the full way that Gukrondi needs to be dealt with. We feel it's important for us to press for acknowledgement, for us to press for apology, and for us to participate in framing the exhumations policy and the reparations policy and the equalization projects to unlock development. But there will come a time where we will have to say, Met Collective, we have done what we have done. It's time to pass the baton, because Zimbabwe and the victims themselves must be engaged, including by NPRC, and they must define what will happen once we start to get these low-hanging fruits dealt with. They will define, is it a TRC that we want like South Africa? Is it a Kuchacha as they did in Rwanda? What is it? So that will be a stage, another phase that maybe Matebeleland Collective will just participate like anybody else. But I think here what has to be respected and understood is we have come together as Met Collective to do some heavy lifting. It's the heavy lifting that we will do, and once we have done that heavy lifting, Zimbabwe will also need to come and take it from there. We will have done what we have done, and others will need to take over. It's partnership. It's not for us to prescribe. How must I tell Mandlovu that I met there as Pepper what exactly she wants to be healed? That's why our argument on the apology is that if tomorrow we wake up and the president is on the news saying, I'm apologizing, that is against our culture. When you are going to apologize, you first admit that ngayenza khonokho. Then there must be some way that people speak to each other and say, okay, uyenze khonokho, why? Uyenze njani nini? Why did they do that? Then we start to unpack culturally. How does an apology look? Ibuyalani, does it come with money? Does it come with medication? Am I just answered by apology? How? Does it come with a memorial to my lost loved one? Does it come with a reburial? That is now for communities to take it and define, because so it's for them to define the apology. And the head of state should then be responsive to the people of Matabeleland and say, this is what people think. And maybe it's not even him who should apologize. Black Jesus Kaseko uschile. Maybe kulabanye kumele babuye bazoxolisa lapha babulala khona. They should come, and we should allow people to come, because the thing with Met Collective that's also different is we believe that the soldiers who came and killed people, they caused pain in those families. But now we understand we are cultural people. They carried the spirit of those tortured souls with them. And how do we know what has happened in their families that they went back to after killing in Gukrondi? So there could also be these spiritual and cultural things that must be addressed. I am not an expert to talk of those, but I don't know, Hildegard, jump in there and help us. These things have to be dealt with by our traditional leaders, by our village heads, by our Ogogo Vase community. They must help us to take that and to frame it so that the apology then will start to be addressed at very community level.
What Jenny is trying to explain here is that the people who have been hurt, the people who are in pain, the people who have died, it doesn't matter if you are sent by someone to kill. The spirit does not follow the person who has sent you, but it follows the matter, the one that has killed. It doesn't matter what people think. We have had some people coming to Lupane. Once there was a young man who came to Lupane to apologize, and a Roman Catholic priest had to intervene to take this person to the family where he had committed atrocities during Kukura Undi time. What is it that brought that man to Lupane? Obviously, certain things were happening in his family, and those things needed to be addressed. So there could be a number of people. We see a lot of mad people. We see a lot of unrest, lack of peace. But these issues need to be addressed in the context in which they happen, so that even the perpetrators themselves one time can find peace. Because for some of them, this was not their idea. They were people under employment, and they were just sent to come and carry out whatever they've been tasked to do. But at the end of the day, they are also suffering. Nobody is documenting what is happening in their lives. But those people also need to be addressed as well. And also, when we are talking of healing, healing has to come from the people that were affected. So it's important that Mat Collective goes back to the people, to engage the people through their traditional leaders, so that they can be the ones that define what kind of healing, what kind of apology, what kind of reparation they want, because no one can speak for them. They should be given an opportunity to voice their concerns and express how they want this thing done.
So in other words, you are not ruling it through the commission, you are not ruling anything. So it can happen during the process, and you welcome other people to come with their opinions as well, to come with their inputs in this.
Some people say that you can't do exhumations because you are interfering in a crime scene. Well, according to what I've understood, the way exhumations are done, there is documentation. But those that feel they want justice, it's their right individually to do that. But it's not for Jenny, Mat Collective, Hildegard, or anybody else to say, no, Intoleo, kumele hambe International Criminal Court. It's for the victim to decide what it is they want. Some people just say, or we want to know why, or we want to get justice. That's for people to decide. We mustn't dictate for people. Otherwise, if we dictate, there'll be no healing.
This is what I'm praying for people to understand. You're not, when what we are doing, you're not saying you're closing the chapter, you are doing this. People don't know that these are people who have initiated something to start a dialogue to sort and solve these people once and for all. So the decision of the Truth Commission or going to United Nations or laying charges will have to come from the victims themselves. But about victims, if we all going to speak on social media and make noise without any direction, like abantwana njengabona orokozele babekhuluma nje benza umsindo bebokukhuluma ku social media ukuthi abasibulala. We know that. We know they killed us. But what is the way forward? Don't know. They can't say anything. Guilty ngalokho. But how are you going to tackle it if you're not going to make a plan or suggest what should be done? So that's why these people started the initiative. This is where I salute them. So come and get involved. And then overnig ideas. Like they are saying, they didn't say there should not be Truth Commission, but they are starting the ball rolling. In a team, there's somebody who starts the ball and pass, and then it moves on and on and on. So now you're going to do you think the process of identifying the bodies, the victims, when will that start?
You know, I think some of these things, it has to be also understood that they takes resources. And then we are also having to be very cautious because of the COVID mitigation strategies. So I think within the next week, we will already be going into certain communities to do feedback sessions and sensitization. You know, it takes a very careful thing. We are also looking for resources. We don't want to accept money from people who want to dictate this or that. We also don't want to receive money from the government. They must pay their way for their things. But as Met Collective, we require assistance. We cannot convene meetings of 200 to 300 villages. Kungela one thing that they will eat. Because if you are going to speak on traumatic things, you have to put some food in people's stomachs. And Hildegard and I worked with the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. We developed a very good model about how we engage communities, make sure they've ate breakfast, then we go into a session, make sure they eat lunch, and then so that the heavy emotional trauma, the tears that we see, the pain that we inflict is also helped by making sure that at least there's something in their stomachs. There is massive starvation in the rural areas. So some of these things we are having to see how we deal with it, but to go into the community without making sure people are fed and at least have some strong physical capacity is to re-traumatize them, and it's not going to be something I want to do.
Myself, like I say, my uncle would disappear a long time. I need justice for my uncle. So I really need justice. So I know there'll be truth, then justice, because there's no healing without all those things. But people need to come on board. I know these people are saying this, complaining. If this thing, I'll let you know now, if it was late, if let's say another political party, they say, another individual comes to say, you wonder what the Matabeleland is self-hating, where did they get it from? Because nobody Matabeleland should stand up and start something. It is always also Tegweza. So Funuti is very kulumali and social media throughout, but without coming with the solutions. Everyone knows Kukurahund was genocide. There's no doubt about it. And with Jenny, they've emphasized that it was a genocide. Which is good news, which is now people know the information. There's nothing like that, what is not genocide is not a genocide. The difference was it's not like a Rwandan one. It was a Zimbabwean genocide where the state, the government unleashed the army to kill the innocent civilians, defenseless people. So you can't say it is the same. So it's a genocide, but we need to sort this once and for all, while these people, remaining people who were involved in the government in the early 80s are still alive, so that they are answerable. This is what we're talking about.
Kunjalo, but I think also kuqakathekile ukuthi sikhuluma mayelana le modern day kuground esekhona. Because kuground yayikhona. But these days, you know, there's been a long period where no civil servant allows any project for Matabeleland. No, you don't want to give the Mandebele this. Alfred has said it. How come we have Metro North, one of the richest provinces of Zimbabwe, but it's the poorest, the schools are the poorest, the pass rate is poor? Why? It shows you something is very wrong. That's why we have been pushing to say, okay, while we are talking of apology, acknowledgement, those things, kubele unlocking of development, Emandebeleni, please. That is why we also say the Zambezi Water Project, it has been on the books for over 100 years, since 1912. Why? Because Singamandebele, please. And also when we look now at the Matebeleland Zambezi Water Project, for example, isn't it sad to see that you'll go to Milabezi or you'll go to the Zambezi, they tap water from there, Badlula, all the Tonga areas, and they will take electricity to Wange, to the rest of Zimbabwe, and you will find the actual people who live along the banks of the Zambezi only recently got water in Binga, only recently got electricity in Benga. These are some of the issues that we are talking about. When we're saying unlock development, we are saying every single community, Emandebele, must have the right to demand their development, must have the right to own their natural resources, and especially Mama. You know, would a lot of the attacks in the last week have been there if I happen to have been born a man? I really feel that a lot of the attacks have a very serious gender dimension. And you know, it's sad to say that most of the women who live in the rural areas are absolutely dirt poor with no way to get development. They can't even go in the meetings where development is being discussed. They will say, "Ay, oh mama, into le ngamadoda kuphela hlala nini endlini." You see, these are the things that we as civic society also want to correct. Unlock development and create gender equality and equity.
Like you're saying, when our political parties are like Matebeleland, they are so divided. They are forming party has been removed in this party, all these mushrooming political parties. So even if they were engaged, so my question in talks my journey, mina vele one thing, I applaud anyone who starts something. Because a lot of people just want to talk. They talk, and especially that is all the social media, which gave them powers, unregulated junk, whereby anybody can say anything and believe that this is the way to do it. So when we sit and say, leave it like this, suppose in 10 years' time there's a new government, there's a new political party, how do we address it? Because they tell you that we know nothing about it. This thing needs to be highlighted right now. So from now on, you continue with this engagement. I'm a victim. When are you seeing them? You don't know exactly when you are starting seeing the victims and correcting the data.
No, you have to understand that we as civic society organizations, we are dealing with victims every day. In Woza, we are also dealing with victims every day. We are in the communities where we work. We do our things as Woza or as Lupane or as Sibanye. We are engaging people. But now we want to be able to bring a project which we do collectively as Matebeleland Collective. And also we are opening the way and sensitizing communities so that the Registrar General's office will follow. So these things we are expecting, we have set aside September to be able to do them, and we have to do them. But there are a lot of logistics for us to put in place to make sure, and we also need to be always guarding this constant accusation, Sitengiwe, Jenny is captured, wah. So in the way we fund our activities, we have to be very careful. I think for me, the diaspora feel they have a role. If they have a role, let them open their pockets. Let them also bring some funds into their communities so that Mat Collective can go in and know that the communities have food, and we do our activities, and we start to get the communities to participate, and now starting to define and identify victims, and also make sure that they start to have the conversation. How does an apology look? Who disappeared? Where are they? How do we find them? And one day, when the borders are open, when we have cleared some of the work here, we have also an agreement with the Registrar General's office that we will be coming to Johannesburg, to London, with them, trying to make sure that there's a safe space for all of the undocumented people in those countries to come and get their documents, to come and change the names. Then we know that many people have their names, Ngomalume, Umenu, Uzawapo, something. Yes, so we want those documents to be corrected. Lama spellings, something is so simple as Lama spellings. Oh, Bantu.
Right. Yeah, because it is painful. Jenny, I don't want in 5 years' time because if they start narrating, when I was about 6 years old, so how brutally he was killed. Everyone I remind them, I want a closure. I want this sorted so that in can be caught whatever if family yakhe compensate than ubukela abantu abakamalume kathi they are suffering bahawula abalalutho because malume bafa. But someone who social media said no, it's not the right time. Yikelani kunjalo abantwana belokhu besifa. Those people are dying. They're still dying. At the end of the day kuzaba nzima to even find ama victims because most of them will all be dead. So I applaud you, I commend you really for starting something.
No, but you know, in Woza particularly, the youngsters that we have engaged when we have consulted on Gukroundi, they said something that touched me deeply. They said, Lena, generation yenu, lichile, latula zwi Gukroundi, all these years, litula, you are giving us an inheritance, a legacy of hatred. We don't want it. We don't want tribalism. We don't want hatred. Please, Dila, nini le into leo, so that there is no intergenerational hatred carried forward. And that was very important. And that is the position of a lot of young people. They say, we don't want this intergeneration. We want a socially cohesive society. We want to feel that we can be equal with anybody else and we can go wherever and get a job wherever. And that comes to the other point of the Matabeleland Zambezi water project. Part of the project is the pipeline to take water to Bulawayo and to the Limpopo River. But also there is a development corridor we're expecting to have, which is 60 kilometers on either side of the pipeline, where we need to create this green belt. Now, the first people who should be beneficiaries are those who suffered from Gukroundi. Those are first primary beneficiaries. They should start to prepare themselves. Then secondary, obviously, is the families. But the youth come in very significantly there. Now, if we can get that dream of that corridor in place, there will be so many job opportunities, so many development opportunities, that I think we will change the history and the youngsters will not judge us harshly. Because me, I don't want to be judged by my grandchildren to say, look at you, what you did. You kept quiet, you allowed people to do this. Exactly.
Yeah. You're busy morning on social media, but you did nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, Hildegard, before you go, so before we finish the program, maybe you want to say something, an overview of the whole thing, how you're going in next plans, whatever you're doing, and the report.
Maybe before I go, I also want to say that we haven't forgotten about the people in the Midlands, because it cannot just be Matabeleland. There were certain sections of the Midlands that were also affected.
Where I come from. Yeah, where I come from. Lower Guero, Slovenia, those areas, yes.
Yes, we have requested that they also be included in the conversation so that they also can experience the same kind of healing that we are envisaging for Matabeleland. But the other thing that we really want to see is we would want to move from the stage where we are and take steps. We might not go through the whole way, but we need to initiate something that can bring development for the people of Matabeleland, that can bring in their lost dignity, that can give them a respectable identity, and that can also heal the wounds, not only of those that were physically hurt, but also of the generations that continue to suffer because of the Gukroundi era. This is our dream, that we really want to see something come out of this engagement. And we know that if we do not engage, we are not going to get to where we want. Yes, people can say you've been bought by ZANU-PF, people can come up with whatever they think, but the important thing is someone must engage. At the end of the day, someone must engage.
Every way, someone has to start. We can't say all of us just sitting here, sitting here in London and say it will happen automatically. Someone has to start the ball rolling. So now, our political parties, have they tried to join you to be part of it? People like Ozapu or Zipra members there?
Yes, we engage them and we'll continue to engage them. We have also tried through the ZIPRA Association. Remember, we are civic society and churches, so we don't have parties in our membership. We can just engage their civic society organizations in Jengu ZIPRA Association. So some of the issues have been coming through from them. But I think here what is important to say, in this last week, we have had a lot of parties asking to join. I think we cannot construct ourselves differently. We are strictly civic society and churches. and we cannot allow a space for parties. I think there are other spaces parties can engage.
But they can come as individuals, is it? Yes.
We have no individual membership. We only have membership that is based on institutions or churches. And that membership is signing up to a document and is also filling in the values and submitting that the position of Mat Collective is non-negotiable. We are in an engagement with government. Whether you call him a perpetrator, whether you call him whatever, the head of state is the one we are engaging. So you can't become a member of Mat Collective if you think you are not going to engage the head of state. So those who have another strategy, we invite you, use your strategy, please. Maybe we will see your strategy and our strategies is abona okuzaphumelela kuphi, as long as at the end of the day, something is better for Matabeleland.
Amen. Amen. I need something better. Like you said, Jenny, legacy Ikukuraundi is still going on. Our people are disadvantaged, they're denied jobs, they are denied to develop themselves education-wise and everything. So that Ikukuraundi legacy is still going on and it needs to be stopped. So it's high time to engage and stop it, to show him that this is what has happened. The unfairness in this region is A+++, so that they know exactly. Because what has happened in Matabeleland and part of Midlands is the Ikukuraundi legacy, which is there. So it should be stopped. I'm sure in your engagement, you need to highlight that, as well as the devolution that is needed like yesterday. So absolutely. I'm sure that will work. We can't have people to come and take a national park, take a national park out of the city, wrong. But while these people are benefiting and ending, you won't in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, remove those people because you can't. How do you remove them? So it needs to be now implemented now. Thank you very much for your time, ladies. And we'll keep trying to give us feedback on the progress of what you are doing there. I'm sure today you have made it clear Ikukuraundi was a genocide, different from the Rwandanese, different from others, but it was a Zimbabwean genocide where the state sent soldiers to kill people, tens of thousands of people. Some disappeared, some were maimed, some women were raped. So we can't just say it's not genocide. It's genocide. Thank you very much. People now know. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having us on the program, Spanda. We hope for your moment of healing too.
Thank you very much. I'll try. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spanda.
Yes, all right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. I would like to thank the ladies. Really, they did well, and so till next time. It is about people who really torment or attack Ujeni. Ujeni is also a victim of Ikukuraundi. The grandmother is of mixed race. That's what people should know. She's of mixed race. It happened. People that were killed as well. Why I applaud these people is that we need to start. We have been talking and talking and talking. But activists like Onjabolo, Bantungwenya, activists of MDC, they are always against everything. We really need to start something than to be saying we shouldn't start it. It's not the time. When is the time? When can you put closure to this? Victims are dying. They're in their twilight. You are sitting in the comfort of your home. Manchester, you are sitting there drinking, having food. Somebody is suffering in Lupane. Somebody is suffering in a plum tree with nothing. Victim and they don't want those people to get relief and to be sorted. They need to take those people, but demand answers from the government. They need to demand answers. Who killed them? What happened? Afterwards, we'll compensate. Than to wait for people who are sitting comfortable, pay data, unlimited data, just to be denigrating those who try. Go and try, show us what you can do. Like they are saying, nobody's stopping anybody from doing it. If ZAPU can take it up, ZAPU had all the years, 4 decades, to take this thing to the United Nations, but no one is coming up. The MTCs and all that, everyone come to explain, to come in there during our campaigns and use Ikukuraundi for campaign, but nobody's sorting it. We've got a parliament of Zimbabwe. Nobody has even laid a bill about Kukuraundi to say we need to tackle the Kukuraundi. Nobody is doing it. But everyone is saying, no, vote for me, we'll tackle the Kukuraundi issue. Nobody has tackled it. There's the lady starting it. They are being denigrated and attacked. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. Siyabonga kakhulu. Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you all. Bye-bye. Take care.